You're on your third rewatch of that K-drama. You already know every plot twist. You know which episode will make you cry, which line will make your chest tighten, which scene will make you pause and stare at the ceiling. Your family thinks it's strange. Why watch the same thing again? There are new shows. Your friends tease you. You're stuck in the past. But you keep returning. Late at night. After a long day of work, or school, or family obligations. When the house is quiet and the world finally stops asking things from you. You press play. And something inside you softens. It looks like nostalgia. But it's actually something deeper. And a little more human. If you've ever wondered why certain people, especially many Asians, rewatch K-dramas again and again, even when they already know the ending. The answer isn't about boredom. It's about safety. And memory. And the way love was taught to feel. You're not broken for doing this. You're not wasting time. Your brain is speaking a language it learned very early. If you grew up in an Asian household, love was rarely spoken directly. It was cooked into food, folded into tuition payments, hidden in criticism, wrapped in sacrifice. Your nervous system learned to look for warmth in subtle places. So when a story gives you predictable warmth, your brain clings to it like a familiar song. Rewatching isn't weakness. It's a form of emotional homecoming. There are a few quiet reasons why your mind keeps returning to the same dramas. Sometimes, it happens after family gatherings. You sit through Lunar New Year dinners, listening to relatives compare careers, salaries, marriages. You smile. You nod. You swallow small comments that sting. You go home and open a drama you've seen 5 times. The reason is simple. Your life is full of social pressure that feels unpredictable. But the drama is predictable. You know who will hurt. You know who will heal. You know love will be confessed eventually, even if it takes 16 episodes. That predictability calms your nervous system. In many Asian families, emotional climates could change quickly. One wrong grade. One wrong tone. One wrong answer at the dinner table. So you learn nunchi, the art of reading the room before the room speaks. You learn to scan faces, to sense moods, to prevent storms. A K-drama doesn't require nunchi. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't compare you to cousins. It doesn't ask why you're not married yet. It just unfolds. And that's soothing. Another reason appears when you feel lonely, even if you're surrounded by people. You might live abroad, caught between languages, cultures, expectations. Too Asian in the West. Too Western at home. Your parents sacrificed everything, but emotional conversations were rare. Friends understand parts of you, but not the whole thing. Then you rewatch a drama where characters eat together, argue, reconcile, and confess feelings in ways your family never did out loud. The small gestures. The long silences. The restrained affection that suddenly breaks through. It feels familiar, but also healing. This is where something cultural lives beneath the surface. In many East Asian cultures, emotions are expressed indirectly. Han, the quiet, layered sorrow and endurance. Jong, the slow, sticky bond that forms without being declared. Mianzi, the invisible rules about dignity and face. K-dramas speak this language fluently. They show love that is restrained but intense, conflict that is silent but heavy, reconciliation that is gentle and wordless. When you rewatch, you're not just watching a story. You're watching emotions expressed in a dialect your childhood understood. And your brain relaxes when it recognizes its own emotional grammar. Sometimes, rewatching happens during burnout. You've been working late. You're part of the Sampo generation that gave up on marriage, kids, home ownership because everything feels too expensive and too heavy. Or you're stuck in 996 culture, where rest feels like rebellion. Your parents told you success is safety. So you keep running. When you rewatch a drama, you're entering a world where emotions unfold slowly. Where characters sit in cafes and stare out of windows. Where time stretches. Where someone notices when another person is tired. This is a form of tangping, not in life, but in your mind. You lie flat emotionally for a while. You borrow a slower pace. Your brain once learned that constant effort equals worth. Grades were love letters. Awards were proof of belonging. Silence from parents meant disappointment. So your system is always on. A familiar drama becomes an off switch. A place where nothing is demanded from you. Another layer appears in attachment. If your parents were practical but emotionally distant, you learn that closeness is inconsistent. Love existed, but it was conditional, performance-based, or expressed through criticism. In dramas, love is often patient. It waits. It lingers. It notices small details. It apologizes with actions. Rewatching those moments becomes a way to experience secure connection, safely. You don't have to risk rejection. You already know the confession will come. You already know the characters will choose each other. It's intimacy without danger. And here's the part many people don't realize. K-dramas often mirror the family structures you grew up in. The dutiful child. The silent father. The controlling mother who believes sacrifice is love. The weight of expectations carried quietly. When you rewatch, you're also reprocessing your own family story. Seeing versions of your parents, your younger self, your unspoken conflicts, played out with resolution. It gives your mind a different ending. But here's what nobody tells you about growing up Asian and rewatching these stories. You're not just returning to the show. You're returning to a version of yourself. The version who watched this drama during university stress. The version who cried alone in their room while pretending to be strong outside. The version who felt understood by fictional characters when real people felt distant. Rewatching becomes time travel. You revisit not just the story, but the emotional landscape you were in. As you age, this behavior shifts. When you were younger, dramas were fantasies of romance, escape, softer worlds. When you start working, they become refuges from corporate expectations and filial responsibilities. When you think about your parents aging, or having your own family, these stories feel like quiet teachers, showing conversations you wish you could have. The same scene means different things at different ages. A confession scene once felt exciting. Later, it feels bittersweet. A mother-daughter conflict once felt dramatic. Later, it feels painfully familiar. The nunchi that helped you survive family dinners now notices every micro-expression in these shows. The Han that lived quietly in your chest resonates with every melancholic soundtrack. Your identity evolves, but the drama stays the same. And that contrast becomes comforting. Something stable in a life that keeps changing. There's also an emotional regulation layer that's easy to miss. Rewatching creates predictability. Predictability reduces cognitive load. You don't need to process new information. You can feel without thinking. It's like returning to a childhood room that still smells the same. Like wrapping yourself in a blanket that remembers your shape. Like talking to an old friend who doesn't require updates. For some, the theme song alone can slow their heartbeat. The familiar dialogue becomes background comfort, like family voices that aren't demanding. In a world where you're always adapting, code switching, translating, explaining, this is a space where you don't have to perform. You don't have to be the model minority. You don't have to be the dutiful child. You don't have to be impressive. You just exist. And that's rare. So when someone says, "Why watch the same thing again?" they're missing the point. You're not rewatching a story. You're re-entering an emotional environment that feels safe, legible, and kind. You're revisiting the language of affection that made sense to you before you had words for it. You're meeting your past self quietly, without judgment. And maybe, for a few episodes, you're giving yourself the gentleness that wasn't always available growing up. There is nothing childish about that. Nothing unproductive. Nothing strange. It's a quiet form of self-understanding, wrapped in familiar scenes and predictable endings. You learned early that stability was rare. So you built it out of stories. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you deeply human.